All right, guys, let's talk about the sixth man of the year race. Now, this is one of the more mundane races in the general community's eyes, but since, in the past few years, it's just been, besides Montrezl Harrell, it's just been like Lou Williams or it feels like it's always been either Lou Williams or Jamal Crawford, when realistically that's not the case. But it just feels like that because they won it 3 times each. But this is actually one of the most interesting races in my opinion. There's even though there's not a whole slew of candidates like something like the MVP would have, I still think there's like 4 or 5 very strong candidates. In my opinion, the main candidates are Danilo Gallinari, Spencer Dinwiddie, Lou Williams, of course, and Dennis Schroeder. Now, Montrezl Harrell, a lot of people would cite Montrezl Harrell as a contender, and while I do see him in the top 5, he would be number 5 as a contender for me. I just don't see him putting up as amazing stats as some of the other guys on here playing on the team with LeBron and AD. Even though LeBron will elevate his play probably, I just don't see him putting as amazing stats as he did last year when they had more but just it's your turn to score kind of thing in the LA Clippers. So I just don't see him putting up as good stats, even though he just might be a better player. So let's talk about my number 1 candidate. Danilo Gallinari is my number 1 candidate. I think he is in a strong place for 6th man of the year. He's not even a 6th man. He's like, a lot of the 6th men are starting caliber players, but especially for Danilo Gallinari, he is a very, very good player. Started on the Thunder, averaged about 18 points on very efficient shooting splits last year, and one of the main reasons why they made the playoffs, besides, of course, like Chris Paul and Shea, yada, yada, yada. And now that he's going to an Atlanta Hawks team that has John Collins starting, as they should, because he's one of their young pieces of the future, Danilo Gallinari will be coming off the bench, and I think he will be able to put up similar numbers as even when he started for the Thunder last year, and he might even be in some closing lineups as the small forward in closing lineups when they need a bucket or need a shot or need 3, and in situations like that. So I think he'll still probably get, even though he's coming off the bench, he'll probably get 30 plus minutes a game. I'm assuming around 31, 32 minutes per game, because he's still very, very good. He just chose to come off the bench for his team, be a mentor for them, and also giving them a bench person that they need. So I think he's going to be the number 1 contender for 6th man of the year. Who is going to be my runner-up? As my runner-up, I have Spencer Dinwiddie. Coming off the bench behind Kyrie Irving, that's probably the best point guard rotation in the league. Although Kyrie Irving isn't the best point guard in the league, the combination of him and Dinwiddie makes the best point guard rotation, definitely. And Dinwiddie has always been a really, really good player. He's been on the radar for a few years now. He's been in contention for the 6th man of the year award before, but I believe he just started too many games with injuries and things like that. But now that hopefully Kyrie doesn't get injured, but now that he's gonna have a full-time backup role, it seems that Caris LeVert is going to be starting at the 2 guard, which means Spencer Dinwiddie will be coming off the bench, and he's still a guy who can give you 20 points and 5 assists off of the bench on any given night. And I think that's just very valuable to have, and those are really good stats. And he's going to do it more efficiently now that he's not going to be the main option as he was in a lot of games last year due to so many injuries that were happening. So since he's going to be on the court with a KD, on the court with a Kyrie sometimes, and even a Caris LeVert, he'll be able to play more off ball, be more efficient, and not have to carry the load as much as he did, especially last year when Kyrie was out and when KD was out. So he's my 2nd candidate for 6th man of the year, but he can very well win the award. Now let's talk about my 3rd candidate. My 3rd candidate is Dennis Schroeder. And I know a lot of people think that Dennis Schroeder is going to start and they're going to move LeBron back to the 3. But I think since it worked so well last year with the championship, they're going to keep playing LeBron at the point guard like they did last year, which means Dennis Schroeder will be coming off the bench. Now, I do believe that Dennis Schroeder is going to get a lot of playing time with LeBron. In some lineups, probably even in their closing lineup, they're going to slide LeBron to the 3 and bring in Dennis Schroeder to close the game. Not necessarily that he's their closer, but in that closing lineup, he's going to be in that lineup that close games out. But since I do think that LeBron is going to start the point guard, he's going to come off the bench. He's probably going to put up similar stats to last year, where in my opinion, he should have won 6th man of the year last year. And although I don't think he'll win it this year, he'll still be a top 3 candidate. He'll still give you 18 and 5 on any given night and be one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA and still be very, very good on offense while not being great on defense. But, 6th man of the year award is about points, and in this aspect, it's all about offense, and he can do that very well. Now, my fourth candidate, who I'm not very confident in, finally we get to Lou Williams. And Lou Williams is an interesting case because he's always going to be a contender for Sixth Man of the Year because he comes off the bench because he's basically a shooting guard, but he's very small. He's not good at defense, and he can only affect the game in short bursts. Now he's probably going to be in the closing lineup for the Clippers, but he affects the game in short bursts, like 4 or 5 minutes at a time. He's getting closer to like 28, 29, 30 minutes per game, but he affects the game in short bursts, gives you some buckets, gives you some decent playmaking, and then he sits down and lets the starters do whatever they do with the system. So although he's always going to be a candidate, I just don't think he's a prime candidate like he was anymore because other better players have emerged that don't have as many weaknesses as him. But I still think he's going to be very good, putting up at least 16 points, 4 assists on relatively okay efficiency. His efficiency hasn't been great, but it's not horrible. It's relatively okay, and it's good for off the bench scoring and a spark off the bench. So I think that's going to be very good. I'm interested to see how the chemistry with him and Ibaka works, and if it's as good as him and Montrezl. Even though they both fell in the playoffs, they had good chemistry in the regular season for this year and for last year. But that's pretty much going to be it. Those are my 5 candidates. Danilo Gallinari 1, Spencer Dinwiddie 2, Dennis Schroeder 3, Lou Williams 4, and finally, as a side tangent, Montrezl Harrell at 5. So let me know what you guys think. Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Follow me on all my socials down in the description: Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. I am out. Peace.